to be able to turn on and off based on a certain part of a song. You can automate this as well, that I'll show you later on. All right, so let's get back into looping, and let's just see how this goes. Putting on some effects, and my click track is on. Let me take that off for a second. So I'm clicking over here on the right-hand side of the screen. Let's make sure let's make this a little bit better so you guys can see all of that. There we go. All right, so what I did is I clicked on the stop all function right here. That makes sure that every other thing that I've created won't play when I press the playhead, either up here on Ableton, and I'll bring this down a little bit so you see that as well. All right, so here's the playhead right here. So if I press this, nothing will play because I did the stop all function down here. And I also have the play function on the push. Now I'm sending to channel 3 out, as you can see right here, Q out. And I'm going to give you this signal of my click. I have it in my headphone, but I also want you guys to hear it, just so you guys know what's going on. Just a little bit. All right. So we have that click there. And the reason why we have that click there is now we're talking about the TC Helicon. Let's bring that back into the screen so you guys can see it. And what we're going to do is get into the specifics of this device. So when I press step over here, I've set it up to where step actually sets it up to where it goes to looping. In utility, you can go make sure that everything is erased. And on meter, I want the meter to be muted. Now you can see that that meter is actually clicking with the click of Ableton. And it tells me it's 90 BPM on the device right here up on the screen. You can't see it because it's so small. Why don't I make that a little bit bigger so you guys can see it? So this is the TC Helicon we're talking about here. Okay, it's just an audio effect for your guitar or your instrument and your voice that I use, and you can also loop with separate sends, stereo sends, which I definitely like, and it also has an XLR out, so it doesn't cut the signal at all. All right, so now I press back, and now that is beat synced. All right, so what I want to do now is when I have this device, the microphone that I'm talking through to right now is not the device that I'm actually going to be looping with. So I'm going to change this up and bring it to that specific microphone. So I'm going through the X32 rack. So making sure that you know your audio interface is very important for how you send things. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and switch this out really quick. All right. So we now have the voice live, and this is connected to the Ableton computer via USB and XLR and 1/4 inch. So the XLR is taking I'm going in XLR from the SM58 right here into the voice live, and then out just a mono signal to the channel that we have recording. And I also have the USB in out that is sending the BPM. So here we go with the BPM. As you can see, it's matching right there. All right. Okay, so I just want to make sure that you guys are only hearing the Ableton, because I want to be able to turn my effects on and off. And I'm going to loop in two different sections here. I'm going to loop using the internal looping that you see right here on the screen. And then I'm also going to try doing looping utilizing the voice live that you also see. Okay, so let's start off here. All right. So, turning off all the effects using the MPK Mini shortcut codes that I put in. And if you ever want to make your own shortcuts with your pad, it's just Command M, okay? Command M is the way that you want to do that. All right. So I want to make sure you guys can see everything pretty clearly. So what we have here is a couple different things happening. One of them is looping inside Ableton Live 11, and then the other is being able to loop with the voice live that you see on the screen here. Okay, so we're in loop mode on the voice live. And I'm just going to go ahead and get out of auto mode. All right, so we're back to not hearing the sounds of Ableton, but we're hearing the sounds from the microphone itself going through the voice live. And we're going to do some looping with the exact same click. Okay, and let's go ahead and just try that simultaneously. All right, so you have your two different loops going on now. So I can turn off that loop on the voice live, and I also have my loop of my beat that I put into our program, Ableton 11. Now, it beat syncs to where I now have to do it. I have to press the play button on the down to make sure that it stays in tempo. Okay, otherwise, it will find the tempo if you start the Ableton program first, right? The play on the Ableton. So, like so. Notice how the click, I'm going to turn the click on. Pretty easy to now bring that in, right? So if I start with this now, I have to be very accurate with when I press the play button on the push 2, which is engaging the loop on Ableton. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can do it the opposite way, but it really takes pressing it at the right time, right? So you really want to make sure that you know that you're pressing it at the right time. Otherwise, it's kind of like DJing. You know, if you don't line it up the two records right away, you got to do a little maneuvering. You might just need to restart one of them. But like I said, the internal clock of Ableton is sending its BPM signal of 90 BPM, which is what we're working with, to the TC Helicon. All right. So that is two ways of looping with an external device and within Ableton's looper. I'm going to give you another way now. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and take this TC Helicon right off because we're not going to use it for a while. All right, let's go ahead. Let's get back to the better microphone too. All right. So what we have here now is the same thing that we had before, is that I want to get in, make sure that I'm on the right channel. So I'm coming through my main microphone now, not 11. I'm going back to 12. Okay, just making sure that your inputs are assigned correctly. That's going to be a big change. So sometimes if you have a beat going on and you're not using the effects within Ableton, you don't need monitoring turned on. You can just keep this off and you can still loop in. Now, if you want to use the internal monitoring, then you can press auto here. I'm purposely not going to, so that my audio stays clean, right? This is something you might want to do, is use your effects from your audio interface possibly, right? The X32 rack has a bunch of presets of delays and reverbs inside of it. That could be the sounds that you want. Or maybe it has your effects pedal of the TC Helicon that you use as your effects going into looping. I'm going to take this looper off because what I'm going to do now is use looping straight into session view. Now, session view, I'm going to go ahead and just tell you the basics of this. When I press tab, this is arrangement view going left to right. Right? This is what most digital audio workstations are doing, right? Is left to right, and you see a playhead of moving along while you listen to a track. Now, in session view, this is a little bit different. It's kind of like, it is a grid. I'm going to go down here and take off my returns so you can kind of see a little bit more of it. Now, I have a lot of random things here. Often what you do is you start right from the top and go down from there. But this can get pretty detailed, right? If you start scrolling across, these are all your different tracks of what you can do and what's been put in here. Now, every single color that's been in here is something that's either been recorded via MIDI or audio, right? The audio track looks like this, and if it's a MIDI track, it looks like this. Okay, pretty simple to see that the difference between the two, easily distinguishable, right? MIDI track, audio track. And if it's empty, it either is a record button, which is a circle, which is why this is in record enable mode, or it's a square. And the square means that it is ready for stop, a stop function. Okay, so, and then this is your master channel over here, which is your play function. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and just, might as well start from scratch with you guys here. So I'm going to turn on my click, and I'm going to make sure I press stop all, which is this function right here. These are all things that you want to probably map to your MIDI device. You know, stop all is definitely one that you want to easily get to. On the push 2, it is shift stop clip, and that shift goes to stop all clips. Okay, here we go. Let's go ahead and press play now. All right, you guys hear that click? I do as well. And we're just going to get into recording on the gourd. I'm holding down on the gourd on my push 2, easily to get to it. 2, 3, 4. quantizing that, you can see that it shift to the 32nd note. I'm pressing the repeat function on the push 2. All right. Now, I'm going to go ahead and just put a little bit of a groove on here because we want to really have a nice feel, because everything that I'm going to record to and loop in, I want that feel already implied. So I'm applying that groove. It nudged these just a little bit to kind of swing a tad bit. If you ever want to see the groove pool, you can always pull up your groove pool and what you have right up here. If you don't have something in there, you can always find grooves by searching for it up here. All right, so now let's go back into what we have here. This is the audio track. I'm going to name this Vocal Live 02. The one we're doing today. And as you can see right here, it's showing that it is recording in. Even though my monitor is off, I know that it's recording to this channel based on like that, for example. When I clap, it's definitely hitting there. Now I can quantize this as well and put the exact same groove on it. All right, so just really getting that exact feel that I want. If there's any intricacies of my humanism being off that I don't want, this will kind of tighten it up. And then you can also purposely put some randomization of velocity and time and quantization based on your settings of your groove pool right up here, right? So as you can see, the groove that I chose isn't exactly precise, but it's giving that humanism but tightness that I want. Easy enough. I can then go to my next channel. Now that was in auto mode, so that's why it came in hot there. And I want to go ahead and loop in this one. Notice how my volume I'm bringing down to match the one previously because I saw that it needed a little bit of that change. Now, something else that I want is to make sure that these effects are pretty much off for now, because then I can then bring them into the amount that I actually want. Okay. So I'm hearing a little bit of wind going on from my recording environment. And if you want that off, I'm going to go ahead and take my metronome off, turn everything else off. If you want that background to be a little bit more clean, let's go ahead and just solo that for a second. So I'm noticing that there's a little bit of sound in here. And as I increase the volume of that, my room has that sound in it. And you know what? Just FYI, there's a fridge about 20 feet away from me, and I forgot to unplug it, and that's that little bit of sound. Now, if that ever happens to you, there are ways to put some gates on to just get rid of that. Sometimes it doesn't feel natural, and you just might want to just have a really silent, organic environment. So let's go ahead and get dynamics, get a gate on here. And it went into my effects, probably at the very end. And let's go ahead and listen to that now. My threshold. All right. Now that's 11 gain. So that if you change your gain again, it will change how much that gate engages, right? Because that gain really showed where that S sound comes up. All right. So that seems pretty clean right there. Let's go ahead and hear this next one. This one also needs a similar gate. You know, there's a little bit of room sound. Sometimes, you know, that room sound is something that you end up wanting to put on later on. This is also a way to get inorganic sounds on purpose. Putting on some reverb. So this is a way that you can loop right into session view, okay, using each scene right here. Okay, so, and this is something that if you have the push 2, there's literally a button that you press session, and it has this whole grid right in front of you. Really user-friendly. You can also have fixed length, and you can change the fixed length and turn that on to be 4 bars, 1 bar, 2 bar, 8 bars, just like how it had the fixed lengths, right, in the looper within the effects rack, okay? So this is a way to do it where you don't have the effects rack going on and you're looping right into session view. So just as a little bit of a review of what we talked about looping with the Voice Live TC Helicon, which is the hardware device that we were talking about earlier. It looks like this. Okay. And then we also were talking about using the Ableton Live looper that you can find within Ableton by searching for loop in your audio effects, delay and loop, and then there you have it right there. And you just drag and drop that to your channel to loop in, right? And all of these different functions and keys can be, if you press Command M, you can put them as shortcuts, right? To record, to overdub, which is the plus, or to play, stop, and clear, undo. This is all right there for you inside this looper function. Now, I've used that in the past. I've kind of graduated to liking the functions within session view as looping better because the quantization is there. You have more ability to kind of visually see what's turned on, what's turned off, right? If you do the looper on the track itself, you know, it doesn't pop up here and there's no visual of which tracks are on or off. So just something to consider. The other thing, not only do I like using the push 2 with the Akai MPK Mini, but in a future session in looping techniques, I am going to go into the FCB 1010, and it is a board. Why don't I just bring up a picture of it really quick? So it's a pretty old school board, and I would say, honestly, there's smaller devices out there that might not need to be so bulky like this. And why don't I just go ahead and open this in a new tab and bring this over for you guys. So you guys can see that this is the FCB 1010 that we will be customizing and talking about in the near future. Now, what's cool about this board is that it has this up-down feature, and it has 10 functional keys here that can be SysX controlled, or it can be note controlled. The SysX controlling is 1 through 127, and the notes, right, are the notes on the piano, all the sharps, flats, and in between. You can put multiple different functions for one pedal or one button. And then there's 2 pedals over here. And these expression pedals are super nice to be able to control with your feet. I'm an instrumentalist, so both my hands are often being utilized. So I can't, push the push 2 or the Kai MPK Mini at all times. So I have the FCB 1010 with these expression pedals to change effects. Okay, so this is just something to consider for your own setup, is how you want to customize your looping, your in-studio and live setup. And if you have any more questions from this session, please comment and email us. Our email is sf@garnishmusicproduction.com, and we'd be happy to talk to you more about this. So here we are back in our Ableton session view, and we've done 2 loops with the voice. Now, if you want to loop with an instrument, okay, it's as easy as creating an audio track and making sure that you are record enabled on the appropriate channel. Make sure these are just centered for now. And I'm going to bring over the ukulele bass, they call it the U bass, and do some recording with that device. Let's go ahead and try this out. All right, you guys can't quite see it too much from your angle, but I'll give you as much visual as I possibly can here. So ukulele bass. All right, what we're gonna do is go ahead and play our tracks, and we are record enabled with the U bass. And notice how I can easily switch between which one is in record mode, okay, and that's using the push 2. If you don't have the push 2, you're gonna need to set up your Midi device to have shortcuts to be able to switch between record enable on different channels that you're recording into. That's part of your live set and your easy way to produce songs even in the studio as well. Let's try this out. I'm going to turn on the metronome to kind of tighten that up. And I'm going to make sure that this yellow line actually is showing me where my push 2 is playing from. You can also, on the push 2, have duplicate as an easy function. So you can duplicate whatever's playing, and it creates that for you. So I want to do 2 duplicates and add in the bass on the second one here. 1, 2, 3, 4. A lot of reverb on that one right there. Now I can quantize this, right? Now if you were to quantize that without the push 2, which the push 2 obviously makes it pretty easy by just pressing the button quantize on whatever is highlighted, you can also right click and find quantize. Right? Right click and find quantize. Or you can right click in here and there's the quantize right there. Okay, you can also see the shortcut code, right? Command U or Shift Command U is the settings. Notice how I am set to quantize 100% to the 16th note. The reason why I do that is that I often do 100% and then I put my groove on, which pushes it exactly to the same spot as the other instruments. So let's try that out. It's a little bit sloppy there, so I'm going to go ahead and just shorten this up. Now, what I want to do is have my compressor do a side chain to the appropriate channel. Okay, so I want it to side chain to the gourd that's being played. I'm pressing that specific channel and then I'm gonna side chain so it will duck when that kick of the gourd happens. All right, so something else that you can kind of do with your loops now is kind of start customizing. Take off the metronome. Now this beat was created with literally a gourd and then a hi-hat sound, and I might want to beef it up a little bit. I'm just going to go ahead and copy this and bring this over to another drum sound. The slappers kit or the fly situation kit. Duplicate that again. All right, so it's definitely thumping a little bit more now. Now what we need is to be able to loop in easy keys. Now I'm in the key of D minor, and I know this because I played the ukulele bass, but you can literally start in any key that you want, right? So if you don't already have a track set up, you can easily go Command-Shift-T to create a MIDI track. I already have one here. And what I would do if I was doing a live set is I would already have these instruments in here already. Okay, so let's find a piano or something that we like. Let's say keys, how about? All right, that little funkiness. I'm gonna drag and drop that onto the MIDI. I'm gonna go ahead and just mute this. All right, so you guys are not hearing the ukulele bass anymore, and we have our new instrument, the suitcase piano, and I'm gonna go in note mode, and I'm gonna make sure that the scale is set to D minor, which it is. All right, I'm gonna get up an octave. All right, let's go ahead and bring this down in volume a little bit. All right, something like that. Quantizing, bringing the groove. I thought I liked this area the best, so there's our loop. Now you can customize your sound, so the reverb amount. A little bit too much. I want a little bit different tone. Now this is where you can start doing your customizations of effects on your return channels. Now, if you're doing a looping show, a really big part of it is how do you take out instruments that you want out? Now, if you have the push 2, you can easily find your instruments and stop clips. Right? You can easily press any stop function on there and it's really right in front of your face. And then it's as easy as starting those up again. And if there's a looping show, you want to get your effects going on your master channel. All right. So kind of a cool thing is just to break it down and then bring it back up again and make things sparse. So once you already have a loop, let's go ahead and just take this whole thing and duplicate it a few times. And what I want to do is just make these beats more simple. Okay. So let's go ahead and just highlight this one here. I'm going to go ahead and just zero out some of these by pressing the 0 function once I highlight it. So this is kind of like a breakdown. Go ahead and just copy that to all of the different sounds. Let's see how that's sounding now. Now the bass line is a little bit too busy for something that's so simple. And also, this could be customized as well. So we want to do mixer. It's on mixer, and we want to get our volume, right? And just have some of these come in. So I'm highlighting area, drop the volume, highlight area, drop the volume. So that when this is playing now, let's go ahead and just solo this. Twice as simple. And this one as well. We're going to go into volume and manipulate just the volume to be pretty much the opposite of what I just did with the other one. I'm going to press Command to solo both of these. Command and click. And this is where the bass also can get simple as well. And let's just go ahead and keep the exact same loop that we did and just mess with the volume and cut out all the extra stuff that we think is going to be too much. And I'm going to add in Command S right here. All right. So what I'm noticing here is that I'm doing my master volumes on each individual channel here, and that's a little bit messy if we're not in mixing mode yet. So I might want to bring this over to my utility and change that up. So actually show automation. And so see how this is actually empty? Okay, utility gain. That's what I want actually to put that on. So this is as easy as copying and pasting. We're in track volume. And I'm just going to select all, copy, and go into our utilities and gain, paste. All right, looks like that didn't capture that area. Cool, so what we will do with that is, what's great is that we can take this volume and say delete automation. And now the automation is still there, but it's going to be more hidden. And the reason why we do that is that in your mixing, you want to be able to have control of that main volume channel later on. I'll probably just bring this to zeros. Yeah, because now this is actually where our volume is. So the same thing happens with our two other loops here. And I'm kind of going the long way doing this. I probably wouldn't do it like this myself, but I want to show you guys how easy it is just to copy and paste over to the utility. Now, if you don't have a utility on your track already, I highly encourage you to get your utility and put it onto your track. Look at, so our utility is not here. I will drag and drop a utility on and then show automation. Oops. Show automation. Okay, now we're on utility gain and paste. And there it is. Okay. And I'll do the exact same thing as I did on the other channels. I'm going to delete this automation and make sure that we have utility here. Select all. We want to select all, copy. And let's see if our utility is on this track. It should be. There it is. And Command V, pasting in the effects. And I'm right-clicking and deleting the automation right here. Let's go ahead and listen to that now. All right, so I have to bring that up to nominal, right? About 0 or so that you guys can hear it again. But that's generally just a way that you can copy and paste. If you put the effect on the wrong instrument or even want to copy it to a different instrument for any other reason, that's an easy way to do that. So this is looping in session view. And not only is this looping, but this is how you can do song creation on the fly pretty quickly. So let's just go back to the very first beat that we did. It's still there, right? And I notice that these two session or scenes here I don't need. We can just go ahead and delete those. Clean that up a little bit. And I'm going to copy or duplicate, Command D, by clicking on that, and then it duplicates it down one. All right, coming back to that initial loop. Nothing changed there, so let's go ahead and just delete one of these as well. Now this is one where I want each instrument to come in on its own time. So this is where we start creating that variation, right? Starts off. And adding in and simplifying. Noticing that this one's going above nominal, so another reason to bring that back to nominal so it doesn't stand out too much. So this is one that I would want to duplicate down and put just below, and then copy and duplicate, just Command D once I click on the suitcase. That's full, right? Rename, this is gonna be like verse. Rename chorus, more energy. Now this is a great example of now I have control over these. Bringing the volume down. All right, so I just threw a little fade to gray at the end there on my master channel using the push 2 and some of the presets that I've done. When you have a live show, there are many ways to do your live show, right? And I just encourage you to try out a bunch of different ways before you settle on one looper and one method. Do your research on people like Bink Beats that is performing live with the Ableton. Do your research on other DJs that are in the studio for hours and hours working on tracks in production and then bringing that to the live show. How much do you want to play live versus do in pre-production, right? What is that line of, when does it become too cheesy? I want to give you a heads up that we're doing this every Wednesday from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. So please check us out for West Coast Wednesdays. I'm Justin from Soul Graffiti Studios and SF Garnish Music Production. We're really grateful to be doing Ableton live with you all, 11. And today we worked on looping and different hardware and software techniques. So I look forward to seeing you in the near future, and we'll talk to you really soon. Have a great rest of your day.